I stood frozen as Nathan's phone lit up with a message. Can't wait for our reunion tomorrow. 6 years of pretending with your placeholder is finally over. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through their secret chat history, hundreds of messages to the woman he truly loved. As my tears fell onto his screen, I made a decision that would change everything. I picked up my phone and texted my brother 3 words that would alter my destiny: I'll marry him. The scent of garlic and rosemary hung in the air as I checked my phone for the 5th time in 20 minutes. No messages. No calls. Nothing. Our 6-year anniversary dinner was growing cold. The candles I'd lit nearly burned down to stubs. Nathan was now 2 hours late. I poured myself another glass of wine and tried to silence the nagging voice in my head. This wasn't the first time he'd been mysteriously delayed on an important date. Last Christmas he disappeared for 3 hours before showing up with a hastily wrapped present and vague excuses about traffic. As I began clearing the untouched plates, his tablet chimed from the coffee table. Probably a work email that might explain his absence. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and picked it up, only intending to check the notification. That's when I saw it, a preview of a message from someone named Vanessa. Landing at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Can't believe after 6 years apart, we'll finally be together again. No more pretending. My stomach dropped. The tablet suddenly felt impossibly heavy in my hands. I knew I shouldn't look further, but something compelled me to tap on the message. The screen opened to reveal years of conversations. Thousands of messages exchanged while I'd been blissfully unaware. I scrolled with increasing horror. Vanessa, how's life with the placeholder? Still keeping our secret. Nathan, she suspects nothing. Just counting down the days until you're back. Vanessa, does she still think you'll propose someday? That's adorable. Nathan, it keeps her around. I need someone while you're gone. My vision blurred with tears as 6 years of memories suddenly realigned themselves into a devastating new reality. All those times he'd insisted on keeping our relationship private to avoid workplace complications. All those missed family gatherings. The way he never posted photos of us together. The constant work trips that couldn't be rescheduled. It wasn't work. It was Vanessa. I scrolled further back, discovering that they'd been college sweethearts. When she'd left for a 6-year international assignment, they decided to maintain their relationship long distance while he enjoyed his freedom with someone who wouldn't matter once she returned. That someone was me. You chose well, Vanessa had written just months ago. Your placeholder doesn't seem like the dramatic type. She'll probably just cry quietly and disappear when you break it off. The rage that surged through me then was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. 6 years. 6 birthdays, Christmases, Valentine's Days, all lies. 6 years of molding myself into someone he might finally commit to, only to discover I was never even in the running. I was just keeping his bed warm. My phone buzzed with a message from Nathan, running late. Work crisis. Start without me. Another lie to add to the collection. I wondered how many work crises had actually been video calls with Vanessa. How many times he'd been with me physically while emotionally miles away with her. I sank onto the couch, my mind racing through options. I could confront him when he finally showed up, throw the evidence in his face. I could pack my things and disappear without explanation. I could tell everyone we knew about his deception. None of it would change the fact that I'd wasted 6 years of my life on someone who had never truly seen me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my brother Marcus. Hey sis, just checking in. Dad wanted me to remind you about Ethan Chen. His family's still interested in the arrangement. No pressure, but... I stared at the message, memories flooding back. Our families had known each other for generations, and for the past year, they'd been gently suggesting an arranged marriage between me and Ethan Chen, heir to a tech empire. I'd repeatedly declined, always citing my relationship with Nathan as the reason. The irony was almost painful. I'd been fiercely protecting a relationship that had been nothing but an elaborate placeholder arrangement from the start. I looked around the apartment Nathan and I had shared for 3 years. Nothing here was truly mine anymore. Every picture, Every memory was now tainted with the knowledge that I'd been living someone else's leftover life. 6 years of my life had been nothing but a holding pattern, a human bookmark keeping his place warm until she returned. Without allowing myself to second-guess, I picked up my phone and typed a reply to my brother that would change everything: "I'll marry him." The train ride to my family's estate in the countryside seemed to stretch endlessly. I spent most of the journey staring out the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass, a fitting backdrop to the storm raging inside me. My hastily packed suitcase contained only essentials. I'd left everything else behind, including the bracelet Nathan had given me for our 5th anniversary. I now realized it had probably been meant for Vanessa. As the train pulled into the station, I spotted my brother Marcus leaning against his car, tall and imposing in his tailored suit. One look at my face and his usual teasing smile vanished. "That bad, huh?" he asked, taking my suitcase. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The drive to our family home passed in merciful silence. Marcus knew me well enough not to push. Our childhood home appeared through the trees, the familiar Georgian architecture somehow both imposing and welcoming. Before the car had fully stopped, the front door flew open and my mother rushed out, her silk scarf fluttering behind her. "Aria," she exclaimed, pulling me into a fierce hug that smelled of jasmine and home. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." "Plans changed," I mumbled into her shoulder. Over her shoulder, I caught sight of my father standing in the doorway, his expression a mixture of concern and something else, relief, perhaps? Inside, the house was exactly as I remembered: polished wood, family portraits, and the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock that had witnessed generations of our family's triumphs and failures. Now it would witness mine. "I'll make tea," my mother announced, disappearing into the kitchen. My father settled into his armchair, studying me with the same analytical gaze that had made him a formidable business negotiator. "Nathan?" he asked simply. I nodded. "He's been seeing someone else," Marcus explained, saving me from having to say the words aloud. "Not exactly," I corrected, my voice surprisingly steady. "I was the someone else. Just keeping his girlfriend's spot warm for 6 years while she was abroad." The silence that followed was deafening. My father's knuckles whitened as he gripped the arms of his chair. "I knew there was something off about him," Marcus muttered. "Remember when he kept dodging questions about his family at Christmas dinner? Or how he never invited you to any of his work functions? Why didn't you say something?" I asked, a hint of accusation in my tone. Marcus sighed. "I tried, in the beginning. But you were so happy, or I thought you were. You defended him so fiercely that I backed off. I should have pushed harder. I'm sorry, Aria." My mother returned with a tea tray, her hands trembling slightly as she poured. "What happens now, darling?" "I'm staying here for a while, if that's okay. I left almost everything at the apartment." "Of course it's okay," my father said firmly. "This is your home. It always has been." My phone buzzed again, the 15th call from Nathan since I'd left the apartment. I silenced it without looking. "About Ethan Chen," my father began cautiously. "Richard, not now," my mother interjected. "No, it's okay," I said. "That's partly why I'm here. I told Marcus I'll meet him." My father exchanged a look with my mother. "Are you sure? This isn't something to rush into because you're hurt, Aria." "I'm not rushing," I insisted, even though part of me knew I was. "I'm 31. I've wasted enough time on the wrong person. I want stability. I want someone who's clear about their intentions." "Ethan is a good man," my father said slowly. "His family has known ours for generations. But an arranged marriage is still a serious commitment." Marcus sat next to me on the sofa. "You remember Ethan, right? He lived next door that summer when we were teenagers." A vague memory surfaced, a quiet boy with serious eyes who always had a book in his hands. I'd barely noticed him back then, too busy sneaking glances at Nathan whenever he visited Marcus. "Barely," I admitted. "What's he like now?" "Successful. Runs the American branch of his family's tech company. Quiet but sharp as a tack. Never been married." Marcus hesitated. He's asked about you over the years. My phone buzzed again with a text from Nathan. We need to talk. Please. It's not what you think. I stared at the message, remembering all the times he'd said those exact words when caught in smaller lies. I blocked his number with a decisive tap. You've spent 6 years living someone else's love story, Marcus said gently. Maybe it's time to write your own. My mother reached for my hand. We only suggested Ethan because we thought you might be compatible. The final decision is yours, Arya. Always. I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. I'll meet him. No promises beyond that. As my family exchanged relieved glances, I excused myself to unpack. In my childhood bedroom, I began removing the last traces of Nathan from my life, deleting photos from my phone. I paused at a picture from a company picnic 2 years ago. Nathan's arm was around me, but his eyes were fixed on something, or someone, outside the frame. Had Vanessa been there? Had I been standing right beside him, completely unaware of their secret glances? I deleted the photo, then noticed something strange in the background of another picture, a familiar face I couldn't quite place. I zoomed in, frowning. The pieces of a puzzle I didn't know existed began to shift. The Elysium restaurant gleamed like a jewel box in the evening light, its Art Deco facade illuminated by tasteful spotlights. I tugged at the hem of my midnight blue dress, suddenly self-conscious. Marcus had insisted on dropping me off, his protective instincts in overdrive since my return home. Text me if you want an emergency extraction, he'd said, only half joking. One message and I'll call with a family crisis. I'll be fine, I'd assured him, though my stomach twisted with nerves. Now, standing before the restaurant's gilded doors, I took a steadying breath. I'd agreed to this meeting out of spite and hurt, hardly the foundation for any relationship, arranged or otherwise. The least I could do was be civil for a few hours. A host escorted me through the dimly lit interior to a private alcove where a man stood as I approached. Ethan Chen was nothing like the quiet boy I vaguely remembered. 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and an athletic build barely contained by his tailored suit, he carried himself with quiet confidence. His features were striking, high cheekbones, intelligent eyes, and a mouth that looked like it smiled easily, though at the moment it was set in a polite, neutral expression. Arya, he said, his voice unexpectedly warm. It's been a long time. I extended my hand for a handshake, but he surprised me by taking it and brushing his lips lightly across my knuckles, an old-fashioned gesture that should have seemed affected but somehow didn't. 17 years, I replied, calculating the time since that forgotten summer. 18, he corrected gently. You were wearing a yellow sundress at your parents' Labor Day barbecue. You spent most of the evening arguing with Marcus about whether graphic novels counted as literature. I blinked, stunned. You remember that? A slight smile touched his lips. I remember you were very persuasive. The waiter arrived with champagne, saving me from having to respond. As Ethan ordered for us, after carefully inquiring about my preferences, I studied him surreptitiously. There was something unexpectedly compelling about the way he carried himself, a quiet self-assurance without arrogance. So, I began awkwardly once the waiter had gone. Our families seem eager for this arrangement. Ethan's expression shifted subtly. They are. But I'd rather set that aside for tonight, if you don't mind. I'd like to get to know the woman you've become, not just fulfill family expectations. Something inside me relaxed slightly. That sounds reasonable. Tell me about your work. Marcus mentioned you're in architectural restoration. I nodded, surprised he'd bothered to ask. Nathan had always glazed over whenever I discussed my career. I specialize in preserving historical buildings while updating them for modern use. It's a balance between honoring the past and embracing the future. Like taking something beautiful but damaged and giving it new life, Ethan observed. The metaphor wasn't lost on me. I raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting I'm a renovation project, Mr. Chen? To my surprise, he laughed, a genuine, rich sound. God, no. If anything, I'm the fixer-upper in this scenario. His self-deprecation caught me off guard, and I found myself smiling despite my reservations. The conversation flowed more easily after that. We discovered shared interests in obscure documentaries and historical mysteries. He asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to my answers, a refreshing change from Nathan's habitual self-centeredness. "You mentioned restoring the old Wickham Library," Ethan said as our entrees arrived. "I was just reading about that project. Didn't they uncover some long-lost architectural drawings in the process?" I stared at him. "How could you possibly know that? It wasn't in any of the press releases." He looked slightly embarrassed. "I might have followed your career a bit over the years." Before I could process that revelation, a familiar voice intruded from nearby. "Aria? What a surprise." I turned to see James Wilson, one of Nathan's closest friends, approaching our table with a brittle smile. My stomach clenched. "James." "Hello," I managed, acutely aware of how quickly rumors would spread back to Nathan. His eyes darted between Ethan and me, poorly disguised curiosity evident. "Nathan's been looking everywhere for you. He's worried sick." "Is he?" I replied coolly. How thoughtful, given the circumstances. James shifted uncomfortably. "Look, whatever you think happened." "James," Ethan interrupted smoothly, extending his hand. "Ethan Chen. I don't believe we've met." Recognition flashed in James's eyes. "Chen. As in Chen Technologies." "The same," Ethan confirmed with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Aria and I were just discussing the remarkable parallels between architectural restoration and data recovery. Both involve salvaging what's valuable from damaged structures." He turned to me, his expression warming. "I'm particularly interested in your thoughts on what can and cannot be recovered once trust is broken." James's face flushed. "I should let you get back to your dinner. Nice meeting you, Chen. Aria, take care." As he retreated, I exhaled slowly. "Thank you for that." Ethan shrugged. He was being inappropriate. "And you looked like you wanted an escape route." "You seem to be good at reading people." "Only some people," he replied, his eyes meeting mine with unexpected intensity. After a moment, he added quietly, "There's more to that story than you know. About Nathan, I mean." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" "Let's save that for another time," he said gently. "Tonight is about us, not him." Us. The word hung in the air between us, a possibility I hadn't considered until that moment. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, sunlight streaming through my childhood bedroom windows. I stretched lazily in bed, my thoughts drifting to the previous evening. Dinner with Ethan had extended into a 3-hour conversation, followed by a walk through the city's historic district. Against all expectations, I'd enjoyed myself. The sharp trill of the doorbell shattered my reverie. Moments later, raised voices echoed up the stairwell. I pulled on a robe and hurried downstairs to find Nathan standing in our foyer, facing off against my brother. "She doesn't want to see you," Marcus was saying, his stance wide and blocking the stairs. "That's for her to decide," Nathan countered, his usually perfectly styled hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. He caught sight of me on the stairs and pushed past my brother. "Aria. Thank God. You won't answer my calls, you blocked my number, I've been out of my mind with worry." I tightened the belt of my robe, suddenly conscious of my vulnerability in sleep clothes. "There's nothing to discuss, Nathan." "Nothing to," he ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "You disappear without a word after 6 years together, and you think there's nothing to discuss? Whatever you saw on my tablet, it's not what you think." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Really? Can't wait for our reunion tomorrow. 6 years of pretending with your placeholder is finally over." What exactly did I misinterpret there? Nathan's face paled. Behind him, my father appeared in the doorway from his study, expression thunderous. My mother hovered in the kitchen entrance, concern etched on her face. "Those messages," Nathan began, voice lowered. "It's complicated, Aria. Vanessa and I have history, yes, but it's not." "Don't." My voice was surprisingly steady. Don't insult my intelligence by lying again. You made me the other woman in my own relationship. I never meant to hurt you, he insisted, taking a step toward me. Things with Vanessa were complicated when she left. We never officially ended things, but I fell for you, Arya. What we have is real. Had, I corrected. What we had. And apparently, it wasn't real at all. Nathan's expression shifted, a calculated vulnerability replacing his desperation. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I was going to give you this on our anniversary. I chose you, Arya. Not her. Marcus made a disgusted sound. Unbelievable. I stared at the ring box, feeling nothing but hollow disbelief. You expect me to believe that? After what I read? Open it, Nathan urged, extending the box. Please. Against my better judgment, I took it and lifted the lid. Inside nestled a diamond ring, elegant, understated, exactly my taste. The very sight of it made my stomach turn. I've been carrying this for weeks, Nathan continued. Ask James, he helped me pick it out. James. I repeated, the pieces suddenly clicking together. The strange look in James's eyes at the restaurant. His awkward behavior. The same James who seemed shocked to see me with Ethan last night. Nathan's expression froze. You were with Ethan Chen? Before I could respond, Marcus stepped forward. That's enough. Arya, show him. Show me what? Nathan demanded. With a grim smile, Marcus pulled out his phone and displayed a screen to Nathan. My friend at the jewelry store sent me this security footage. You buying identical rings. 2 weeks ago. Nathan's face drained of color. 2 rings, Marcus continued mercilessly. Identical settings, different sized bands. One for Arya, one for Vanessa. Hedging your bets until the last minute, weren't you? Whichever woman seemed most advantageous, that's who'd get the proposal. My parents gasped in unison. I felt the floor shift beneath me, a fresh wave of humiliation washing over me. It wasn't like that, Nathan insisted, but his voice had lost its conviction. Get out, I said quietly. Arya, please. Get out. I shouted, my composed facade finally cracking. 6 years, Nathan. 6 years of making me feel like I wasn't quite good enough, like if I just tried harder, was more patient, more understanding, you might finally commit. Meanwhile, you were just waiting for her to come home. You don't understand, he said desperately. Chen is using you to get to me. Our companies are rivals. This is business for him, not personal. I laughed without humor. Everything is always about you, isn't it? Did it ever occur to you that I might have value beyond being your backup plan or someone's corporate revenge? Nathan's expression hardened. You think Chen actually cares about you? He's been tracking our relationship for years. Ask him about the corporate espionage investigation. Ask him why his company's lawyers have been building a case against me since last fall. The certainty in his voice made my blood run cold. What are you talking about? Your precious Ethan isn't the knight in shining armor you think he is. He's been planning this for years, waiting for his chance to use you against me. Marcus stepped forward, physically placing himself between us. That's enough. Leave now, or I call the police. Nathan's gaze never left mine. Fine. But when you discover what your new boyfriend is really after, don't say I didn't warn you. As the front door slammed behind him, I sank onto the stairs, the ring box still clutched in my hand. Is it true? I asked my brother. About Ethan's company building a case. Marcus's hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Later that afternoon, while searching through old photo albums for distraction, I discovered a yellowed envelope tucked inside a family history book. Inside were letters, decades old, between my grandfather and Ethan's. The past, it seemed, had its own stories to tell. The letters were brittle with age, their faded ink a testament to decades past. I carefully spread them across my bedroom floor, placing them in chronological order. The earliest dated back to 1973, a formal business correspondence between my grandfather, Thomas Alexander, and Ethan's grandfather, Wei Chen. My dear friend, the first letter began, I believe our combined vision for Alexander Chen Industries will revolutionize the technology sector. Your brilliant engineering paired with my market insights could create something truly remarkable. I sat back on my heels, stunned. Alexander Chen Industries? I'd never heard of such a partnership. Our family business had always been Alexander Technologies, established by my grandfather and later expanded by my father. The next few letters detailed ambitious plans, patent applications, and early investment strategies. Their tone grew increasingly warm and personal, evolving from business associates to genuine friends. Photos fell from one envelope, my grandfather and Wei Chen standing proudly before a modest office building, arms around each other's shoulders, faces beaming with optimism. Then came a letter dated April 1978 that made my blood run cold. Wei, I write with grave concern. Richard Hampton has approached our investors with misleading information about our stability. Several have withdrawn their funding after his presentation. I suspect industrial espionage. The market forecasts he shared contained data only you and I had access to. Richard Hampton. Nathan's father. My fingers trembled as I opened the next letter, dated 3 months later. Thomas, I regret to inform you that I must withdraw from our partnership. The financial strain has become untenable, and my family requires security. Hampton Enterprises has offered to acquire my patents at a fair price. I know this feels like betrayal, but I see no alternative to protect my family's future. I hope someday you might understand. The final letter in the collection was from my grandfather, unsent, its tone heartbroken and bitter. You chose the easy path, Wei. Hampton never intended fair partnership. He will strip your patents and discard you. What hurts most is not the business lost, but the friend. Some betrayals can never be forgiven. The letters trembled in my hands, decades of secrets, betrayals, and lost friendship. Suddenly my story with Nathan seemed like just another chapter in a book that had been writing itself for generations. I was still sitting surrounded by the letters when my mother knocked softly and entered. I see you found them, she said quietly, sitting beside me on the floor. Why didn't anyone tell me? About grandfather and Wei Chen? About what Nathan's father did? She sighed, picking up one of the photos. Your grandfather forbade us from speaking of it. The betrayal nearly destroyed him. He rebuilt Alexander Technologies from scratch, but he was never the same. She hesitated. When we learned the Chens had moved back to the States, we thought perhaps it was time to heal old wounds. Business partnerships can be rebuilt, but families. She squeezed my hand. That's why we suggested the arrangement with Ethan. Not just for business, but for closure. Does Ethan know this history? I asked. His grandfather told him everything before he died. Wei never forgave himself for choosing Hampton's offer. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Dinner tonight? There's something I need to tell you. I showed my mother the message. Nathan claims Ethan has been investigating him for corporate espionage. That this whole thing, meeting me, was part of some revenge plan. And what do you believe? I don't know what to believe anymore. The restaurant Ethan chose was quieter than Elysium, a small French bistro tucked away on a side street. When I arrived, he stood to greet me, his smile fading as he registered my expression. What's wrong? He asked as I took my seat. I placed the folder containing the letters on the table between us. I think you know. Ethan's face fell. He touched the edge of the folder but didn't open it. You found the letters. Why didn't you tell me? About our grandfathers? About what Nathan's father did to your family? He was quiet for a long moment. I wanted you to form your own opinion of me. Not see me through the lens of decades-old business rivalries. And the investigation into Nathan's company? Is that revenge for what his father did to yours? Ethan looked genuinely surprised. Nathan told you about that. He says you're using me to get to him. Of course he would say that. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. The investigation isn't about revenge, Arya. It's about justice. Nathan has been following his father's playbook, stealing intellectual property, sabotaging competitors, bribing officials. We have evidence. And what am I in all this? A convenient way to get closer to your target. Pain flashed across his face. Is that what you think? That I orchestrated meeting you as some elaborate corporate espionage? I don't know what to think, I admitted. The timing is suspicious. The timing, Ethan said carefully, had nothing to do with Nathan. My grandfather made me promise on his deathbed to try to heal the rift between our families. When your brother mentioned you were finally returning home, I thought it might be fate. You never mentioned knowing Nathan. Would you have given me a chance if I had? If your boyfriend's corporate rival suddenly showed interest in you? Before I could answer, a commotion erupted near the restaurant entrance. A woman's voice, sharp and angry, cut through the quiet murmur of the restaurant. Where is she? The little homewrecker who can't leave other women's men alone. I turned to see a stunning woman with long dark hair stalking toward our table, her eyes locked on me with laser intensity. Even without an introduction, I knew immediately who she was. Vanessa had arrived, and she was coming straight for me. Ethan stood smoothly, positioning himself slightly in front of my chair. Miss Sinclair, he said, his voice controlled but with an edge I hadn't heard before. I believe you're interrupting our dinner. Vanessa halted, momentarily thrown off balance. Ethan Chen? What are you? Her eyes darted between us, recalculation visible on her face. Well, this is interesting. Retry. By morning, the damage was done. Vanessa had transformed our restaurant confrontation into social media warfare with surgical precision. My professional Instagram, carefully curated with restoration projects and architectural insights, was flooded with comments calling me a homewrecker, backstabber, and wouse. Someone had leaked photos of Nathan and me from company events, now overlaid with snake emojis and vicious captions. You don't have to look at those, Marcus said, gently taking my phone as I scrolled through the wreckage over breakfast. I work in this industry, I said, my voice hollow. My reputation is everything. My latest restoration project, the historic Blackwell Theatre, had tagged me in a carefully worded post announcing they were reconsidering staffing for the final phase of the project. Translation: they were firing me. The doorbell rang. Moments later, Ethan walked into our kitchen, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. He carried a sleek laptop under one arm and nodded respectfully to my parents before turning to me. I came as soon as I saw what was happening, he said. I can help, if you'll let me. How? I asked, not bothering to hide my skepticism. He set the laptop on the kitchen table and opened it. Chen Media Holdings owns 17 digital publications and has partnership agreements with dozens more. We can counter this narrative. Marcus whistled low. You're going to use your media connections to fight back. If Arya agrees, Ethan said, looking directly at me. This is your reputation, your career. I won't act without your consent. I studied him, searching for ulterior motives. Why would you do this for me? Because it's the right thing to do, he replied simply. And because I suspect there's more to Vanessa's attack than simple jealousy. Over the next few hours, our kitchen transformed into a crisis management headquarters. Ethan made calls while I drafted statements for his media contacts. My father offered strategic advice from his years handling corporate PR disasters. By noon, the first counter-narratives began appearing, thoughtful pieces on professional women facing online harassment, profiles of my restoration work, and subtle questions about the timing of Vanessa's very public meltdown. This is good, Marcus said, reviewing the coverage on his tablet. Professional, dignified, focuses on your work rather than personal drama. As we worked, I found myself watching Ethan. He operated with quiet efficiency, never raising his voice even when issuing firm directives to media outlets. Occasionally, our eyes would meet across the table, and he'd offer a small, encouraging smile before returning to his task. Incoming, Marcus announced, holding up his phone. Nathan's requesting a meeting. Says it's urgent and concerns both of us. He looked at Ethan. He's trying to drive a wedge, Ethan said. Classic Hampton family tactic. I'll see him, I decided. But not alone. Nathan arrived at 4, visibly startled to find Ethan sitting calmly beside me in our front parlor. Marcus leaned against the mantelpiece, arms crossed. This is a private matter, Nathan said stiffly. Not anymore, I replied. Say what you came to say. Nathan's jaw tightened. Fine. I came to warn you that Chen is using you to get to me. His company has been trying to prove I've been stealing proprietary technology. They've got nothing, but they are desperate. That's not entirely accurate, Ethan interjected smoothly. What we have is evidence that Hampton Tech has been systematically appropriating intellectual property through shell companies. The SEC investigation is already underway. Nathan's face paled. What investigation? The one your father's old friend Commissioner Bradley can no longer delay, Ethan replied. He retired last month. His replacement is considerably less amenable to looking the other way. I watched the exchange with growing unease. Is this true? You're under investigation. It's a witch hunt, Nathan snapped. And now he's dragging you into it. You did that when you made her collateral damage in your personal life, Ethan countered, his calm facade finally showing cracks of genuine anger. Just like your father did to mine. So this is about revenge, Nathan said triumphantly, turning to me. See? I told you. It's about justice, Ethan corrected. Your family has been stealing other people's work for 2 generations. It ends now. The tension between them was palpable, decades of family history crackling in the air like electricity. Nathan, I interrupted, did you put Vanessa up to attacking me online? What? No, of course not. Vanessa's just emotional. She feels threatened. Threatened, I repeated flatly. By the woman you claimed meant nothing to you. That's not what Ms. Alexander. A new voice entered the conversation as our housekeeper appeared in the doorway. There's a young woman here to see you. Says it's urgent. A Ms. Vanessa Sinclair. The silence that followed was deafening. Send her in, I said, ignoring Nathan's look of panic. Vanessa entered like she owned the room, designer heels clicking against hardwood. Her eyes widened slightly at the assembled group before her practiced composure returned. Well, she said with a brittle laugh, isn't this cozy? The gang's all here. What do you want, Vanessa? I asked. She looked between Nathan and me, then fixed her gaze on Ethan. Actually, I came to speak with you, Mr. Chen. About certain communications I've had with Hampton Technologies over the years. She smiled thinly at Nathan, whose face had gone ashen. Communications Nathan might prefer remain private. Vanessa, don't, Nathan warned. Why not? She asked sweetly. After all, you promised we'd be together once you secured the merger with Alexander Technologies. That was the plan, wasn't it? Marry the Alexander daughter, combine the companies, then divorce her once you controlled everything. My hand found Ethan's arm, gripping it instinctively as the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. My brother was right, I said quietly. This really is just history repeating itself. Rain lashed against the windows of my childhood bedroom as I packed my suitcase for the 3rd time in as many weeks. The storm outside matched my inner turmoil perfectly, intense, unpredictable, and showing no signs of letting up. 2 weeks had passed since Vanessa's dramatic revelation in our family parlor. 2 weeks of SEC investigations, media speculation, and family emergency meetings. Nathan's company stock had plummeted after leaked documents confirmed what Vanessa had revealed, his systematic plan to marry me, merge our family companies, then orchestrate a reluctant divorce that would leave him with controlling interest in both. I zipped my suitcase with more force than necessary, still angry at my own blindness. 6 years. 6 years I'd given to a man who had never seen me as anything but a business acquisition. A soft knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Come in, I called, expecting my mother or Marcus. Instead, Ethan appeared, raindrops still clinging to his coat. His hair was damp, his expression uncertain. "Your mother said you were leaving," he said. I nodded toward my packed suitcase. "I need some time away. Clear my head." "Where will you go?" "The lake house. No internet, no phone service. Just me and about 1,000 books." Ethan nodded, understanding in his eyes. He didn't try to talk me out of it, which only made me appreciate him more. "Before you go," he said, "there's something you should know." He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Our arrangement. I've informed both families I'm withdrawing my participation." I stared at him, caught off guard. "You're backing out." "I'm setting you free," he corrected gently. "Whatever happens between us, I want it to be because you choose it, not because of family expectations or business advantages." A lump formed in my throat. After weeks of discoveries about how Nathan had manipulated me, Ethan's gesture hit me with unexpected force. "Thank you," I managed. "There's more," he continued. "Your restoration contract with the Blackwell Theatre. I didn't just get them to take you back. I bought the building." My mouth fell open. "You what?" "It's a sound investment," he said quickly. "Historical properties in that district have appreciated 28% in the last decade. But mostly," he added with a small smile, "I wanted to make sure you could finish what you started. The project is yours, no strings attached." I sank onto the edge of my bed, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll consider having dinner with me when you return. Not as part of an arrangement. Just as Aria and Ethan." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a familiar name. "Nathan." Ethan noticed and stepped toward the door. "I should go. Take all the time you need at the lake." After he left, I stared at Nathan's message request for a long moment before finally accepting it. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. But please, give me 5 minutes. I'm outside." Against my better judgment, I went downstairs and found Nathan on our porch, soaking wet from the rain. "You shouldn't be here," I said, keeping the door half closed between us. "I know." He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, clothes rumpled. I needed to see you one last time before the hearing." The criminal complaint Ethan's company had filed against Nathan was moving forward, with preliminary hearings scheduled for the following week. "What do you want, Nathan?" "To apologize. Really apologize, not just try to manipulate you again." He ran a hand through his wet hair. "What I did was unforgivable. Using you as a pawn in some twisted corporate game." He shook his head. "I've lost everything, my company, my reputation. But losing you." His voice broke. "That's what keeps me up at night. 6 months ago, such a confession would have melted my resolve completely. Now, I felt only a dull ache, the ghost of what had once been love." "I did love you," I said quietly. "That's the saddest part. It wasn't all pretend for me." "It wasn't for me either. Not toward the end." His eyes met mine, sincere in a way I'd rarely seen. "I know it doesn't matter now, but somewhere along the way, the plan changed. I fell for you, Aria. For real. But not enough to choose me over your ambitions." "No," he admitted. "And I'll regret that for the rest of my life." We stood in silence, the rain creating a curtain between us, between the past and whatever came next. "I should go," he finally said. "Thank you for listening. For what it's worth, Chen is a better man than I ever was. Don't let what I did make you afraid to trust again." As I watched him walk away, shoulders hunched against the storm, I felt an unexpected sense of closure washing over me. Back in my room, I found Marcus sitting on my bed, eyeing my suitcase. "Running away?" he asked. "Strategic retreat," I corrected. "I need space to think." "About Ethan?" "About everything." Nathan just stopped by. Marcus raised an eyebrow. And I think I'm finally ready to let go." My brother studied me carefully. "The difference between Nathan and Ethan isn't about who deserves you more. It's about who sees you clearly, and whether you're finally ready to see yourself. I sank down beside him. When did you get so wise? I've always been the smart one, he teased, bumping my shoulder with his. You were just too busy chasing the wrong guy to notice. As the rain continued to fall outside, I made my decision. I reached for my phone and sent a text, not to Nathan, not even to Ethan, but to myself, a promise of what I would and wouldn't accept from now on. Then I grabbed my car keys and headed out into the storm. Retry. The windshield wipers fought valiantly against the downpour as I navigated the familiar route to Ethan's home. Each crack of thunder seemed to punctuate the thoughts racing through my mind. I was acting on impulse, something the careful, measured Aria of 6 months ago would never have done. By the time I pulled into Ethan's driveway, my hair was plastered to my face, my clothes soaked through from the short dash from car to porch. I rang the bell, suddenly aware of how dramatic this must seem, appearing unannounced on his doorstep in the middle of a thunderstorm. The door swung open, and Ethan stood there, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. Aria? What's wrong? Come in before you catch pneumonia. He ushered me inside, disappearing briefly to return with a plush towel. I stood dripping on his marble foyer, struggling to articulate the epiphany that had driven me here. I needed to tell you something, I began, and it couldn't wait. Ethan handed me the towel, careful not to touch me, always respecting boundaries I hadn't realized I'd set. I'm listening. You cancelled our arrangement, I said, dabbing ineffectually at my soaked clothing. Yes. His eyes were cautious. I thought that's what you'd want. It was. It is. I took a deep breath. But that doesn't mean I want nothing to happen between us. Something flickered in his eyes, hope, wariness, or perhaps both. What are you saying, Aria? I'm saying I spent 6 years with someone who saw me as a means to an end. A placeholder. A business strategy. I stepped closer to him, heart hammering. And in just a few weeks, you've shown me more genuine care than he did in all that time. I just treated you with basic respect, Ethan said softly. That's not something you should have to be grateful for. It's more than that, I insisted. You see me. The real me. Not what I can do for you, or what I represent, but who I am. Thunder crashed outside, as if underlining my point. I'm not ready for anything official, I continued. I need time. Space to figure out who I am when I'm not molding myself to someone else's expectations. I understand, he said, though disappointment flickered across his face. But, I added, reaching for his hand, I'd like to see where this goes. No arrangements, no family expectations. Just Aria and Ethan, getting to know each other properly. His fingers curled around mine, warm and solid. I'd like that too. Then, before I could second-guess myself, I rose on tiptoe and kissed him. It was brief, tentative, but electric in a way I hadn't experienced before. When I pulled back, the look in his eyes made my breath catch. For the record, he murmured, I've wanted to do that since that summer when you argued about graphic novels in a yellow sundress. I laughed, the tension breaking. That long? He nodded, reaching out to tuck a wet strand of hair behind my ear. Some waitings are worth it. 6 months later, the Grand Meridian Ballroom glittered with the city's elite gathered for the annual Heritage Foundation Gala. As co-chair of the Restoration Committee, I circulated among donors in a midnight blue gown, discussing preservation initiatives with passionate intensity. You're stealing the spotlight again, Marcus murmured, appearing at my elbow with champagne. Chen hasn't taken his eyes off you all evening. I followed my brother's gaze to where Ethan stood across the room, handsome in his tuxedo, deep in conversation with the museum curator but glancing in my direction with unmistakable admiration. We're taking things slow, I reminded him, though my pulse quickened under Ethan's gaze. 6 months of taking it slow, Marcus teased. You practically live at his place. Before I could retort, a hush fell over one section of the room. Nathan had arrived with a statuesque blonde on his arm, both of them wearing carefully neutral expressions. Didn't expect him to show his face here, Marcus muttered. After the SEC investigation, Nathan had narrowly avoided jail time by cooperating fully and returning misappropriated assets. His reputation was in tatters, his company under new management, but he was slowly rebuilding his life. It's a public event, I said evenly. He has every right to be here. Want me to run interference? I shook my head. I can handle a brief interaction. Sure enough, Nathan eventually made his way to me, his date tactfully drifting toward the bar. Aria, he said, his voice formal. The Blackwell Theatre restoration is magnificent. Congratulations. Thank you. The original Art Deco elements were remarkably well preserved. An awkward silence stretched between us, the weight of our history almost tangible. You look happy, he finally said, something like genuine regret flashing in his eyes. I am. Another pause, then, Chen's a lucky man. I smiled faintly. Actually, I'm the lucky one. But we both know luck had nothing to do with it. Nathan nodded, understanding my meaning. I'll let you get back to your guests. Take care, Aria. As he walked away, Ethan appeared at my side, a reassuring presence. Everything okay? He asked. Better than okay, I assured him. Later that evening, during the president's address, a surprise announcement sent murmurs rippling through the crowd. Alexander Technologies and Chen Innovations would merge to form AC Global, with myself and Ethan as co-chairs of the new sustainability division. Your idea was brilliant, Ethan whispered, squeezing my hand beneath the table. Returning to our grandfather's original vision after all these years. As applause filled the room, Ethan suddenly rose from his chair, pulling me up with him. Before I realized what was happening, he dropped to one knee, producing a vintage ring box that I immediately recognized from the family photos I'd discovered months ago. This was my grandmother's, he said, his voice steady despite the hundreds of eyes upon us. My grandfather gave it to her when they rebuilt their life after losing everything. It represents resilience, new beginnings, and love that survives life's storms. Gasps and whispers surrounded us, but I heard only his voice. Aria Alexander, I'm not asking because of business or family expectations. I'm asking because I love you. Will you marry me? Time seemed to suspend as I looked down at this man who had entered my life through an arrangement but had become so much more. My answer surprised even me. Not yet, I said softly, a smile spreading across my face at his momentarily stunned expression. Ask me again in 6 months, when the merger is complete. When everyone knows we chose this for ourselves, not for business. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by admiration. He rose to his feet, slipping the ring back into his pocket without a trace of disappointment. 6 more months, he agreed, his smile matching mine. Some waitings are worth it. As I looked around the ballroom, I caught sight of Nathan watching us from a distance, his expression unreadable. Our eyes met briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. I had once been a placeholder in someone else's story. Now I was writing my own, and this was just the beginning.